Hey, so I just wanted to make a quick video on old electric skateboard remotes because nobody ever talks about them and there's some things you might not be aware of. So for starters, when electric skateboard remotes first started coming out, you had these really rubbish ones with the tiniest little LED lights you could possibly imagine, and you could barely see what it was trying to indicate with battery life and so forth. As you can imagine, the nub style from throttle control was not the best. Boosted had a better idea. Anyhow, this is a Ling-Yi based remote. Later on, you started seeing these Ling-Yi based remotes, which obviously inspired by the Slick Revolution remote. LED lights, definitely more noticeable, which is great in terms of finding out what the thing is doing, instead of looking in and going, oh, I can't make out those LEDs. And as you can imagine, much better from throttle remote. Same again, Ling-Yi based remotes. Then Meepo came along with their V3 remote, and the reason I mention this one is basically it has brake modes, and if you know anything about old Ling-Yi based ESCs, they were a little bit on or off with both throttle and brake response, so this ended up becoming the most standard. Now the reason I mention these is because I did not realise that you could actually pair up old Ling-Yi boards, like for instance ones that use these remotes, and you can use these remotes, and then all of a sudden you find out exactly what speed, what brake mode you're in, battery life, remote life, even better, the overall mileage of your electric skateboard, which was a godsend. So moving on from that, you ended up with your Hobbywing remotes. Same again, started out with these LED light bulbs. They weren't the best, but they worked. Now I had an old Viril F1, and I've still got this 3 years later, which used this remote. I had no idea what my top speed was. I had no idea what my overall mileage was like, and same again, guessing what your battery life was like was, well, you know, your guess is as good as mine. And then along came these OLED Hobbywing remotes. And one night I had the great idea to pair this with my Viril F1, and all of a sudden I could find out what overall mileage I had, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. So yeah, turns out most of these remotes are backwards compatible. Basically, if you have an old board that has an old Hobbywing remote or an old Ling-Yi remote, you can upgrade to newer ones and have all the data that you should have had from the beginning. So just thought you ought to know, and it was a eureka moment for me basically. And yeah, there's still some life in these old boards.